Hello, my name is Christina VanderVelde, and I am here to tell you why I would be a great fit for Byron Center Public Schools. First, a little bit about myself. I've been teaching kindergarten for the past 5 years. Prior to that, I taught first grade for 3 years. I understand the difference between a classroom and a successful classroom. I understand that in order to have a successful classroom, there are 3 things that have to take place. First and foremost, you must have great relationships with your students. You need to know who those children are that are in your classroom. You need that relationship piece in order to get the student buy-in. If you don't have your students bought into what you are going to be doing with them, what's the point? You need to have those relationships built up with your students. Once you have a good grasp on your relationship with your students, you're constantly working in structure and routines and procedures. With those routines and procedures, that's when you're tightening up those transitions so that your students are bought in, and now you've got structure in your room. So now you can bring in that instruction. Those lesson plans can be phenomenal, and you are going to be able to rock your students' world. You can have phenomenal lesson plans, but without the relationships, without those routines, those procedures built in, what does it matter to have the most spectacular lesson plan if your students don't believe you and don't believe in what you are doing for them? So those are the pieces that have to be there, and that's the biggest difference between a classroom and a successful classroom. I also want you to be aware of how I feel about my students. I want my students to remember me as that person that always believed in them, always loved them, no matter what. No matter what the challenge was that was facing, no matter what their behavior or how many terrible days they had or how many fantastic days they had. I want them to remember I always believed in them and I always loved them. I want them to hear my voice in the back of their head saying, Mrs. VanderVelde loves you and you can achieve this next goal. Mrs. VanderVelde loves you and you can push through this challenge. I want that to go with them for the rest of their lives. And I talk to my students about that, like when we're doing standardized testing, especially with kindergarten students. Mrs. VanderVelde loves you so much. She has taught you everything you need to know to be successful on this test. So go and do it. I also want you to be aware of how I feel about educating the whole child. Yes, it's important to teach our children the academics that they need to move on to the next grade, but it is so much more than that. Their physical needs need to be met. Their social and emotional needs have to be met. And if those needs are not being met at home, then they absolutely have to be met by me. And even if they are being met at home, they are my family while I am here at school. They are my little babies, and I am going to meet every single one of their social, emotional, physical, and academic needs. Thank you so much for your time. Again, my name is Christina VanderVelde, and I hope that I will be meeting you in person very soon. Thank you.